When we talk about British punk in the late 70s, all that snarling, spitting energy of the Sex Pistols or the working class fury of the Clash, there's one album that sits outside the boys' club glowing like a neon warning sign in the fog. X-Ray Spex, Germ-Free, Adolescents. Released in 1978, this album isn't just another punk record full of three-chord anthems and anger for anger's sake. No. This is a fierce, strange, and utterly original burst of color from the margins, led by one of punk's most important and visionary voices, Polystyrene. Polly was something rare, a mixed-race woman in a scene dominated by white male aggression, and she used her position not to mimic the boys, but to critique the very system they raged against. In a voice that was entirely her own. Her singing wasn't, pretty. It was jagged, warbling, unrestrained, like a siren screaming from the outskirts of society. And that's exactly what Germ-Free Adolescents is. A warning shot fired at the plastic, media-driven world to come. The title track is more than a song. It's a metaphor for society obsessed with perfection and image control. The heroine is trapped in her spotless world, desperate to stay germ-free in a toxic society that rewards surface over substance. And the sound of this album, wild, punk guitar, sure, but also the wailing, unpredictable saxophone, ripping holes into the songs like broken neon lights in a storefront window. On the song The Day the World Turned Dayglow, Polly sings of the sort of plastic world swallowing the natural one whole. I clamber over mounds and mounds of polystyrene foam. She literally predicts the synthetic landscape of modern life. Packaging, pollution, fake beauty, fake safety, a world where reality is wrapped in cellophane. What makes this record truly lasting is its spirit, a fierce, unapologetic rejection of what women in punk were expected to be. Polly didn't play the sort of sex object or the angry pinup or the sort of touch girl cliche. She was bookish, strange, prophetic. She wore braces, day-glow clothes, a strange smile. She wasn't marketable, and that was the point. This spirit lit the way for the Riot Grrrl movement decades later with bands like Bikini Kill, Bratsmobile, L7, found their blueprints in Polly's refusal to fit in the mold. Her, critique of consumer culture, of, femininity as performance, of identity as something sold back to you in a box. Kathleen Hanna even spoke of polystyrene as a foundational influence, not just for her sound, but for her fearlessness. Riot Grrrl took Polly's message, what women could define themselves outside of beauty standards and industry expectations and male approval, and ran with it into the 90s underground. So, Germ-Free Adolescents isn't just a punk record, it's a feminist record, a radical record, a warning, but also a blueprint. Even now, when you hear Polly sneer, "Do you see yourself on the TV screen?" you realize how far ahead she was, predicting Instagram, influencers, filtered lives. Her voice, weird, brash, uncompromising, was the voice of future generations of women in punk, indie, and beyond. Without her, maybe Riot Grrrl would have sounded very different. Maybe it wouldn't have existed at all. This is why Germ-Free Adolescents matters so much, why it's not only, one of the greatest punk records ever made, but also one of the great feminist statements in music history. Polystyrene was right, and the world is still catching up to that. So if you haven't listened to this album, do yourself a favor, check it out, let me know what you think.